Hello, my dearest friends. Welcome to Lead to Gold. This is the podcast devoted to discussing all things growth and wellness, and occasionally earth stuff, climate activism stuff, environmentalist stuff. And that is today. It's been really interesting. We've had 2 podcast episodes come out in April. This is the second one. Both of them happened to land on really special days. April 8th, the most recent episode, episode 35, was about change and like surrendering to change. That came out on the day of the very highly anticipated solar eclipse in Aries that covered most of the United States. And then today is Earth Day. Happy Earth Day. This is, in a way, my favorite holiday, even though not much happens. In fact, I feel like Earth Day used to be a huge opportunity for everybody to post their favorite Earth pictures, which I have some issue with, but at least it got people kind of talking about, climate justice and the issues that we are currently facing, are going to continue to face. And I'm not seeing as much of that now, which, for better or worse, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I'm definitely missing the conversation that the typical Earth Day traditions of posting your favorite pictures of nature used to bring about. So in any case, this is my Earth Day conversation. We are having the conversation. We are having a conversation of some regard. So even if you are finding this later, it still applies, because one of my favorite sayings is that every day is Earth Day. So regardless of when you find this episode, happy Earth Day. And before I get into the details, I want to go ahead and give my little spiel that I give at the beginning of every episode. I am so beyond happy that you are here. If you continue to listen along, if this is not your first time listening and you haven't rated the podcast yet, it would mean the world to me if you could take a second to do that. And if you're somewhere where you could leave a little review, that would be immensely helpful as well. It helps people to find the show. It helps Spotify and Apple Podcasts to know that people are enjoying this. That way more people, like-minded people, can find it. And that is essentially the goal. I love the opportunity to create a little community out of this. Beyond that, if you didn't know, Lead to Gold is also a blog. So along the same lines, if you like what we talk about here and you want a little bit more of it in the form of writing, perhaps, I post a blog post every other Monday, just like I do here. So every single Monday, you are getting something out of Lead to Gold. Same wellness, growth, and adjacent topic conversations. So if you like this, you will like that just as well. And beyond that, I'm on Instagram if you want to follow me there, if you're not already. The very last thing I'll mention is that there are 2 additional options if you want to support me further. You can buy some merch over at TeePublic, and I have shirts, I have mugs, I have stickers, I have whatever your little heart desires. That would be a lovely way to throw me a little monetary bonus, because this is all stuff that I do just because I enjoy it. So that never hurts either. But regardless of what you do, thank you for being here. With that being said, I always like to start these episodes, especially in talking about this, something that I am super passionate about, by giving a little context as to why this is coming up for me currently. So part of that I really feel like is just a little life update. What is the vibe currently? How are we doing? Because I tend to feel like wherever I'm at, a lot of people, especially people my age, are also there at the same time. If you are into astrology at all, I'm really, really feeling into this current Taurus season. I, as an Aries, love Taurus season. I don't know why. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. I just love this time of year. I love how I feel coming into true spring. I know Aries, with the start of Aries, is like the beginning of spring, but Taurus is like true spring, and I just love it so much. It's interesting though, because this year Taurus feels a lot different for me than it normally does. Normally I kind of associate it with being like cozy and rainy and lazy, and you have Aries season, which is known for being really loud and fun and dramatic and bold. I tend to find that period of time is like, oh, I'm out, I'm doing my thing. It's my birthday, especially, so I'm like really out and about, doing everything, socializing, seeing all my friends, drinking, partying, sweating, dancing, all of that. And then you get to Taurus season, and by then it's kind of just like, oh, okay, let's just hibernate for a little bit. But what's different about this year is that I feel like the whole winter season of 2023, 2024, I'm like super hibernation mode. Really, really into it. And I loved it, and it definitely served its purpose. Very happy that things went the way they did. And I really genuinely was not doing a lot in those months. Winter was very quiet for me. But then Aries came around. We had that typical burst of energy. I'm starting to see people again. My friends and I are really trying to be better about staying in touch and planning just like small hangouts that aren't super time consuming or financially consuming. We have always had the patterns of having like these, like, I don't want to say elaborate parties, but just lots of things involved. Like you got to buy a new outfit to match the theme, or, we go on our lake trips, and it's just a lot, so we're trying to be better about making it simple just for the sake of seeing one another, because we are almost out of our 20s, and we all know that gets harder as life goes on. So anyway, that was what my Aries felt like. My Aries season was really lovely, getting social again, getting back out there again. And there is this major undercurrent of momentum building. And I right now just like really do not want to slow down that momentum. I want to keep going. I feel like there is a lot coming, maybe a lot coming that I don't even foresee, that I don't know. And I want to be ready for it. I really like the energy that I've been feeling. So I want to keep that going, keep it strong, and keep it growing even further. So besides that, there's just a lot of, growth going on right now, lushness. I just restocked my entire house literally today, full of new houseplants, because I have not been the best plant mama lately. So I did my due diligence, got some good soil, got some good plants, and we are restocked. And my home just feels so good after that. I'm noticing all of the trees blooming. We can finally start cutting the grass. I just love spring. I love this time of year so, so much. And I just last week wrote a blog post about this. It's the most recent blog post over at Led to Gold if you want to check it out. I have a direct link to it in the show notes. But I had a really awesome revelation during the solar eclipse. And that whole weekend, I was up in Burlington, Vermont, visiting a friend to go see that. Incredible, incredible. And during that trip, I sort of had this reawakening, or sort of like revisiting with my body, which sounds maybe weird to some people, but it was this interesting sensation of just like coming back online, having fun in my body again and feeling good. I don't know if you ever have this, but when you stretch first thing in the morning and you just like really, really feel that stretch, and it feels so good, and it just sets the rest of your day off in a good direction. It was that sensation, but all day long, which was really cool. And that's another thing that I'm trying to build momentum with as well, because I just haven't been feeling all that present in my body lately. And now I'm starting to again. And I think I really owe that to the amount of time that I spent in nature during that trip, because I didn't really come back to that until I was biking with my partner and my friend, and I was noticing how hard it was, and how I'm literally just going on a flat trail, and I shouldn't be this hot, and I shouldn't be like panting like this. So initially it was kind of bad, but then I was like, wait, this is actually really nice though, because I'm doing it. And I feel pretty good overall doing it. And then immediately we went on a hike. We're playing by the beach. We're throwing rocks. And it's just everything we're doing. I'm like noticing how good it feels to just be present with the motion of my body. And that is a really cool feeling. That is where what I realized and what I am still kind of building my realization around is that my body is a mirror for Earth. I myself am a mirror for Earth, and she is a mirror for me and for you and for everybody. It's been a really cool experience to not only reintegrate with my own body, but to also reintegrate with nature after a really long, really indoor winter. A slow winter, a hibernation. It's like I'm coming back out. I'm remembering what is just so magical about this planet that we live on. And I feel so fortunate to have had that moment of realization and this moment of coming back online and now working through that sensation and building it. That's great. Because this is sort of a precipice, I think, for a lot of us. We are collectively very, very caught up right now in extreme climate anxiety, extreme burnout, because we are all so afraid of what is being done to our home. And it's no secret to any of us, unless you choose not to see the very clear science that is being shown, that things are looking pretty bleak for the years to come. This is just a truth that I think a lot of us have to sit with, and it is so palpable and so painful that after a while we just don't have the capacity to withstand thinking about it for too long. And that's where we're getting into the depths of this conversation, because after all, this conversation serves to remind us that we can still hold space for celebration and for joy with our relationship to Earth, which on its head is no secret, I don't think. I mean, I know that we are able, and most people do practice both of these things. We can be anxious about the climate and at the same time enjoy a beautiful hike. But what I really want to talk about is the importance of being present through that and remembering our why, remembering why it is so important to establish a very intimate, very loving relationship with Mother Earth. So I'm going to get into a lot of things here, a lot of things that might be a little bit personal for me specifically, but I do feel like they'll also be helpful potentially to expanding our mindset on what celebration of the climate could look like. So before I get to that, I want to quickly define climate anxiety and climate burnout, which many of us are likely aware of, but I think a definition can still serve a great purpose here. So I'm going to read this straight from an article on Yale Sustainability, and this article is called Yale Experts Explain Climate Anxiety. I will link this in the show notes for you if you want to read more. Climate anxiety is fundamentally distress about climate change and its impacts on the landscape and human existence. That can manifest as intrusive thoughts or feelings of distress about future disasters or the long-term future of human existence and the world, including one's own descendants. There is a physiological component that would include heart racing and shortness of breath, and a behavioral component when climate anxiety gets in the way of one's social relationships or functioning at work or school. One thing to point out is that worry is not the same thing as anxiety. Many people are worried about climate change. 64% of Americans in our last national study said that they were at least somewhat worried about global warming. That's a good and healthy thing because worry as an emotion is a motivator, which we're going to talk about today. If you worry about something, you are motivated to figure out what you can do about it. We actually need more people to be worried about climate change. Where worry becomes a problem is when it becomes overwhelming and debilitating, when it keeps you from living your life. And that is when it becomes climate anxiety. Likewise, this is not from Yale, but just, kind of following down that line of thinking. When we get too overwhelmed about all of the bad news that we see about climate change, and this is a very specific line of news, it's a very specific cultural phenomenon that I think is large enough to render itself its own form of anxiety. You know what I mean? So therefore, when we get too overwhelmed, when we have completely exhausted our nervous system, we experience burnout, which in certain ways can be temporary, but in other ways it could last quite a bit longer than maybe is beneficial. When I think of climate burnout, I think of there's sort of this back burner feeling in your head of nothing I do is going to make a difference anyway, so what does it really matter if I buy from Shein? Or I don't want to really get into that for today's conversation, but along those lines of thinking. Nothing I do is really going to make a difference, so who cares what my actions are? Nothing that I do is going to make a difference, so why should I even try to spread the word or care myself? Why should I even try to keep fighting because nothing I do is going to do anything? That, I think, is the overarching burnout that a lot of us experience, because this does feel like way too big of an issue for one person to handle, and it absolutely is. If you feel that way, you are correct. You cannot solve climate change on your own, but the hero in us wants to believe that we can. And without getting heavily involved in some sort of climate justice movement, we cannot affect a lot of change on our own. That's just a fact. And it's a sad fact. It's a debilitating fact. Therefore, I think climate burnout is, in one way, completely justifiable. What I don't think is exactly justifiable is that if you consider yourself somebody who cares about the environment, and we all should, by the way, then there will come a time where the climate burnout has to end. We have to act once more. And that's exactly what the Yale article was getting into there, is that when we can kind of move through the cycle of anxiety and burnout and then start to find ourselves coming out of the burnout, we're getting motivation again. That's where we can leverage that feeling and really begin to do something about it. What I would love to offer is a few methods to get us out of that rut a little bit faster, a little bit sooner. Remembering our why, remembering why this work, this justice is so critically important. So, how do we move on from the anxiety and the burnout? I have said this many times in many different episodes in many different ways, but in last year's climate episodes, in one of them, I remember talking about how it is necessary to feel that pain sometimes. So when you are in the thick of climate anxiety, when you are in the thick of the burnout, whatever, you have every right and every ability to sit with that for as long as feels comfortable. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like setting yourself a container. It's like when you can become present enough to recognize that you are super fucking anxious about all of the horrible shit that we are doing to this planet, sit with that, journal about it, cry about it, get upset and mad about it, do what you need to do in a healthy way, hopefully in a relatively non-destructive way, and allow that, because that anger can be alchemized into motivation. And in this moment of anger, sadness, pain, all of it, it's important to remember your why. Why does this bother me so much? From there, you can begin to re-explore what matters so much to you about nature, right? What matters to you so much about this planet? Because one thing that we don't want to do is get stuck in the loathing of people and the government and whoever is at fault for why things are the way they are. Of course, there's always going to be somebody to blame. There's always going to be policies that need to change. and things that need to get better. But again, there's only so much you as one person can do at this time. So instead, when you are ready, try to shift your focus back into the things that bring you love, the things that radiate love from you to earth and back. Maybe think about how you interact with nature. Like, what are the things that bring you the most joy? Is it hiking? Is it gardening? Is it just taking a little hot girl walk around the town where you live? Whatever it is, start journaling about that, or at least meditating on it, visualizing it. What brings you so much joy that you feel is worth protecting? Obviously, it's all worth protecting, but like for you personally, what are the things that you want to protect? And then visualize that as in you are going to protect that thing. Here's another little tidbit, and this is something that I'm trying to get better at because I don't do this enough. I think when we think about nature, when we think about like the best views and the most beautiful things that we could possibly see in nature, what I usually go straight toward in my brain is like gorgeous, insanely tall, sprawling mountains with snow caps on them, just like huge and otherworldly and just not even of this earth because they're so insane. And that is true. I mean, that's how I feel every time I see a giant like mountainscape. It's insane to me. But appreciate the big and the small. That's what I'm trying to practice, is like also appreciating the small things, the things that you could find in your backyard, the things that you could find on a walk around town. I'll give you an example. So I have always noticed that in my backyard every spring, this time of year, little cute purple flowers grow in the grass. So it's nice, first off, because it's not all just regular grass. I do have something of a biodiverse backyard, which I'm very grateful for. It came before me. I had nothing to do with it. But yeah, I always noticed these really adorable little purple flowers that would grow. And then eventually I learned that they're wild violets and you can actually eat them and you can make all kinds of cool concoctions with them. So just admiring like the sheer beauty of that, the fact that my backyard is providing for me and I didn't have to do anything. I just came out here, found all these gorgeous little flowers, and whether or not I want to stare at them or have a little snack with them, that's there for me. Like, that's incredible. Is that not incredible? And there's so many little examples like that. Just across from my backyard, we back up to a cute little farm. I don't think it's really a functioning farm, but there's a cow over there. And the pond is full of geese and ducks. And I think there's a couple muskrats that swim around in there. And sometimes it's just nice to walk over and enjoy the view and see what the cow's up to and see if the geese are fighting or whatever. Like, the small ecosystems are sometimes just as magnificent as the big ones. So I say this to give us a little bit of a reminder that you don't have to go far to appreciate nature. There are probably so many cool little things. I won't even say probably. There are so many cool little things going on in your local ecosystem. Like, so many. I mean, thousands probably all at once. We would never know, because we can't possibly catch it all. That's how amazing and tiny it is. And I love it. So I'll pair that with another little tidbit that I was going to say, but in general, just getting into the practice of noticing. Notice what Earth is doing. Notice how the clouds look. Notice how the weather changed throughout the day without having to look at your weather app. Just notice. Feel into it for yourself. Watch the birds. Watch the grass grow. Pretty cool stuff. And those two, I think, go hand in hand, especially with the looking at the small ecosystems. It's like once you really actually start paying attention, you would not believe the amount of magic. And I say magic because it really feels like magic. It's just like, wow, this has been here the whole time. This is crazy. you start to feel like a kid again. You start to, again, remember your why. Which brings me to my why. And this was what I was referencing earlier. This might be a little bit personal, but I'm wondering if anybody out there feels similarly or could even just benefit from hearing this. And I would love to know your thoughts or your relationship to this conversation if it serves you. DM me on Instagram. I would love to hear from you. But this is a little bit of a spiritual note. I won't even say a little bit. This is a spiritual note for this conversation. And I've mentioned this also many times on Led to Gold before, but I always look at spirituality as a playground. It's sort of that thing that a lot of people get into because religion, as they've grown up with it, is too restrictive and there's not a lot of freedom to explore. It's very rigid for a lot of people. So spirituality is nice because, in a way, so long as you are doing it responsibly and acknowledging any cultures that play into your practices, right? That's very important. But I love the fact that spirituality gives you so much freedom. It's kind of like an individualized religion in a way, and that can be pretty cool. This is something that I have never really spoken out to anybody, but it is a belief that I hold at my absolute core. This feels so ancient and so solidified within me that it almost feels like I am quite literally like tied to the earth in this. Like it's that deep. But if I had to ascribe to a deity, if I believed in a deity, it would be Earth. Like Earth is goddess. She reflects absolutely everything, all of our human beauty and all of our human ugliness and all of our human joy and all of our human pain. It is reflected through her back and forth like an eternal mirror. Like she is my mirror. I am her mirror. I think I said that earlier. But that's how I feel about it. Anything that could possibly be going on inside of me, it is happening with her as well. And I mean this in a way that I can't quite explain because I am not very well versed in spirituality in a lot of ways, but that is just something that I feel so deeply. There is a reflection. I believe that any energy that I give out, she is receiving, and vice versa. And there's also this relationship with life and death that I feel very tied to. And that is that there is a part of Earth that is always dying. There's a part of Earth that is always living. I can't remember who said it. I want to say it was Shakespeare, if I'm remembering correctly. I think it came from Romeo and Juliet. Yes, it was Friar Lawrence who said, "The earth is a womb and a tomb." So think about it. The earth is always, always, always birthing, creating, growing, living, and she is also simultaneously always dying, shedding, rotting. And that is, I think that is the human experience. That is the human emotional, spiritual experience. There are always things within us that are both growing, blossoming, moving, changing, and then dying. And even on a deeper level, it's like there's this sensation of parts of me wishing, I know this is going to sound weird, but like wishing for death in certain ways. But then other parts of me that genuinely get so sad at the recognition that I cannot live forever, like on Earth. I want to be here on Earth forever. Life is awesome. I think there's a parallel to be seen there too. Earth wants to continue. And there's so much joy to be had in that feeling of wanting to continue and wanting to see what the future holds and wanting to see more of life. That's a major reflection. And I think something that we could keep in mind from that, even if you don't have that same sort of spiritual connection to Earth, even if you're not spiritual at all, that's not a sensation that can only be felt if you have that relationship established. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. What I am trying to say is to find a way to remember the joy, remember the beauty, remember the goodness, not just of Earth, because Earth is inherently amazing, beautiful, joyous, teeming with life, but also death. And that's beauty too. But trying to remember how to see that in your fellow human as well, because no, of course, we are not the only species here on Earth, clearly, duh. But in this really complicated situation we find ourselves in with climate injustice, obviously that is human-centered. That is a human-centered issue. Humans are causing it, and there is not enough being done to stop it. But don't allow that fact to turn you away from humanity. Don't allow that fact to soil your good faith in humanity in other ways. And I know that that is a really hard thing. I know that we're probably all grappling with that in some way. And I would be lying if I sat here and said that I still found a way to love humanity and have faith in humanity every day. I don't, because this world is terrifying and we do terrifying, horrible, awful things to one another. And I will never understand why. I don't know that anybody will ever have an explanation as to why, but there is still goodness to be seen and felt and remembered. And that is worth fighting for. That is worth picking yourself back up when you're feeling the worst of the climate anxiety and the worst of the hopelessness, is remembering that like there are still good people in your life. There are still good people out there in the world who care, who want to continue living, and who want to see that for other people too. All people. So the bottom line here is that the fight for climate justice is a long one, a very, 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 very long one. And maybe we are working too slowly. Maybe we are not going to figure it all out in a timely fashion. It's likely that we are going to face some pretty serious consequences before the big players, the politicians, whatever, start to care and start to really actually do something. And it is probably true that before that happens, there's going to be a lot more greed and a lot more hoarding of resources, taking it away from the most oppressed people, the people who are going to suffer the most from climate change and climate disaster. That is probably true. We know how our systems have worked. We know how huge a role capitalism plays on all of our lives. But what I would also like to think is that we as a collective are seeing this, and we're not taking the bullshit anymore, and we are fighting back. We are doing as much as we can, and if we as an individual are not, we do have that capacity. And if we care enough, if we really, really, really care and see that other people also care and that we're not alone in this and that we actually could make change happen if we really get together and do it. Like, it is possible and it is probable, I would like to think. I think, yeah, it's probable. And through all of that, because that is very hard work, the war is long, the battle is long. It's not going to be over likely within our lifetime. I can tell you that much. I'm sure of it. There's always going to be something to improve. It's remembering the why as you are feeling deeply into those pain points, feeling into the pain point of the oppressed being neglected through this process. There is a part of you that is being neglected from another part of yourself. And this is where I'm getting back into the mirror of Earth. Like, this is how we can relate to the bigger issues going on. people are being oppressed, there's a part of you being oppressed. There's a part of you being oppressed by another part of you that is like, no, shut up. This isn't important. This part of my life is more important. I'm going to deal with this and maybe deal with you later, but probably not. That's probably going on somewhere in there. Feeling the pain point of that gets us a little bit more familiar with the global scale. Feeling the pain point of when that other part of ourselves has been greedy, has hoarded resources, has been oppressive towards others in our lives, has not made the best decisions, and now maybe feels really terrible about it. There's pain to be felt there. That gets us closer to a relationship with Earth, who deals with the same things every day. And on another note with this, Earth acts as a mirror, as I've said, and she is able to give us these really subtle hints into feeling all of our darkest, shadowiest stuff. That was something that I kind of mentioned the last episode with the solar eclipse. There's a huge point being made with solar eclipses and how they show us those things that need to be worked through. This could go very deep. This could take a lot of time out of our lives as they are to really feel into. But if that's important work for you, then now is an excellent time to do it. And I think even more so, it's an excellent time to start having these conversations with your loved ones and with yourself. Here's the last thing I'll say, though. Through all of this, even though I see our Mother Earth as a deity and as like our ultimate protector and our ultimate mirror, reflector, whatever, Earth is going to be fine without us, all things considered. She is going to be fine because she is more than we are. Yet another reason I guess I consider her to be some sort of deity in a way, because she is more powerful than all of us. Nature does not give a fuck what happens to humans, just like it doesn't give a fuck what happens to any of the other species. None of us are special. None of us are going to make it off of this planet alive, because she is our ultimate ruler and decider in a lot of ways. And I think just that in and of itself, there is the capacity to feel so much awe in recognizing that, feeling that sheer power, and using that to continue to fuel the fight, because this is such an amazing planet that we live on. This is such an amazing, unbelievable experience that we are all having because we are here. We are all here at the same time as one another. We are all here and connected to each other, but also to the earth. And yet, we are not going to survive this one way or another, whether it be through climate change, whether it be through something else. We are not getting out of this alive. That is scary, perhaps, but it's also quite awe-inspiring if you can look at it a certain way. And that is what keeps me ultimately motivated, because I want more of that. I want more people to see that. I want to meet more people who feel that way. And all of this works in tandem in the fight for climate justice. So celebrate all that you love about our planet. Celebrate absolutely every person that you come into contact with who is doing this work alongside you. Celebrate every beautiful little thing you pass by on your walk into work today or tomorrow or the next day, every day. Start journaling about the things that you pick up on that you've never noticed before. There's so much joy and wisdom to be found in this planet. And I just think that's like so insanely incredible. Can you tell? I think it's incredible. I think I might be acting a little crazy over here because I am just so like in awe all the time. And I hope to become more in awe. I hope to spend more time literally out in nature. I want to go on more hikes. I want to do more camping. I want to spend like more time with her. And that's right now. That's like summer 2024 goals, but that's also the way that I want to live life, like my entire life, all for the sake of just getting a little bit more time to hang out together. And I think we should hang out together a little bit longer too. So we have one thing left for this episode for today. And if you've been here before, you already know what I'm about to say. We're going to play a little game of We're Not Really Strangers. I do this at the end of every episode as a little journaling opportunity. So if you have that nearby, maybe you can pause for a moment, go grab that, and let's talk about some small strategies that we can take to heal today. And it may or may not have anything to do with this conversation that we've just had, but sometimes they surprise me. So here we go. All right. Today's question is, well, it's not really a question. Well, maybe it is. You'll see. Finish the sentence. I want to give myself permission to feel blank. What's getting in the way of that? So for me, I want to give myself permission to, I won't say feel something, but fully surrender to whatever emotion is arising for me. So I guess feeling surrender, but I don't know if that's exactly how I would put it. I want to give myself permission to surrender to any feeling. And I think the thing that's getting in the way of that is that I am scared of really getting to the root of a lot of feelings. There have been a lot of instances in the past several years where I feel almost like too close to something, and then I'm just like, nope, I'm good. It's almost like reaching over the edge of a cliff or getting really close to a cliff face, and the closer you get to it, the more uneasy you feel. You're just like, oh, I don't know. That feels really scary. It's like that. So I'm not really sure how to overcome that, because that has been a pretty long-standing feeling for me, but I'm working on it as best as I can. If anybody's got any advice, I would love to know. So that's my answer. It's a short one for today, but I'm curious if you want to chat about your response. What are you wanting to give yourself permission to feel? And what is getting in the way of it for you? Let me know if you feel so inclined. If you want to just chat about any part of today's episode, hit me up on Instagram, DM me, whatever. I just want to thank you again so much for being here and for joining in on a conversation that I feel is more important than most. And I don't mean mine specifically. I just mean like the larger global conversation on the climate crisis, climate justice, and how we can care for ourselves through that when it feels like the perhaps bigger powers in the world are not taking care of us. How do we do that for ourselves? How do we do that for our local communities? So this will continue, I'm sure. This will continue as a theme throughout the rest of Lead to Gold's work throughout the year, past Earth Month, past Climate Month, past Earth Day. But again, happy Earth Day if you are listening to this on this day. Glad you're here on this earth. Glad I'm here. Glad we're here together. And I love you so much. I'll chat with you in another 2 weeks. And in the meantime, if you're interested, go check out the blog as well. All right. Talk soon. Bye.